Number one is Aspies tend to have their egos in check. What we're talking about are 13 things that Aspies get right. Now, to fit 13 things into 10, 15 minutes, I got to talk really fast. So stay with me on this. But there's something about people with Asperger's syndrome that they know what it is to fail because from the very get-go in life, they have had a challenge meeting people socially and being engaging socially, and so they are often rejected, and there goes your ego. I mean, just flat out. It is depressed from the very get-go. So if you're looking for somebody who is a narcissist, somebody that is dominating and wants to control your life completely, the last place you would look is for a person with Asperger's syndrome, because just inherently it seems that nature has made us where even if we wanted to be egotistical, and yeah, it'd be kind of nice to try this sometimes, but I'm telling you, it's just not there. Number two is this, is because of that, well, we learn. We learned that we've got to be better. So number two, something that Aspies get right is we tend to endeavor to improve all the time. And it stems from that same core impression that we get, self-impression that we get as little children, that you're just not quite as good as everyone else. You can't play ball as well. You can't communicate as well. You can't socialize as well. You can't do all these things that other people can do. And so what do? Well, we strive. We try. We try harder. They used to be the slogan, I think, of a car rental company. Is that right? We try harder. Number three is this. I think this is a big one, and that is we are unfazed by fads. Okay, I might be stretching it just a little bit on this. I know that over my lifetime, particularly as a teenager, I kind of like to be in style, but not that much. Particularly when it came to things like hair. Okay, when I was 16, 17 years old, maybe even before that, I wore my hair basically like you see it right now because that was acceptable. Then there came this thing, I guess in the 80s, where guys started having really, really long hair. You remember the hair bands? Okay, I was too old for that anyhow, but I always thought that looked kind of bad. So, whatever. I don't want to be in style. I want to be comfortable. So when these fads come along that are sometimes harmful and hurtful, people with Asperger's syndrome usually get it right because we just don't have that peer pressure that we feel like we just have to be accepted by everybody all the time. Been there, done that, tried it, it didn't work. I mean, when I say we tried to be accepted, I mean we have spent years, particularly as children, as teens, preteens, we really tried to be accepted, and we got the message loud and strong. So, okay, we're not going to go with your fads. We're going to do what makes us happy because, isn't that what life is all about? Not abusing people, not using people, but just taking care of self and making sure that, you're happy. Number four is this, and that kind of ties in with what we just said. Aspies tend to know what we want. Now, I don't know if this is true about everyone with Asperger's syndrome. I'm just kind of speaking for myself here. I'm pushing 70 years old. I've been there, done that. So I'm speaking from experience. Wherever you are in life, I've chances are I've already been there, unless you're older than me, which is possible. But I kind of know what you're going through. And one of the things that I went through, and tell me in the comments if you want whether or not this is true of you, but I know what I want, and when I go shopping, I go in, I buy what I want, and I get out. Now, I know people who love to go shopping. I honestly, I'm not talking about the social thing where you don't like being in the crowd. I'm talking about I just don't care to go shopping. I mean, it's nice to get out of the house and do something, but you can walk in the woods. That's something. You don't have to go shopping. I just don't get that. So when I go into a store, and tell me if you're like this or not, if you're an Aspie, I have in my mind what I'm going to buy, and I go in, I get it, and I leave the store. I know, I understand there's some people that can go into a store, a shopping mall. Remember when we had shopping malls? They would go into a store or shopping mall and they would browse, looking at stuff that they don't want, that they can't afford, they don't need. What makes that worse is sometimes they buy this stuff that they don't want, they don't need. but they just have this compulsion to buy stuff. That is not me whatsoever, because I just know what I want. And it's not just shopping, it's just about anything. I got a pretty good idea what I'm going after, so I go after that thing, and I don't need all of this other stuff. Now, again, I don't know if that's true of every Aspie, but I kind of think that it is, because we tend to have lives that are functional when they are organizational. Number 5 is we tend to be good with finances. Most people with Asperger's syndrome tend to have average or above average IQs, average or above average intelligence. What's more is we tend to like things systematic and in order, and that just dovetails perfectly with mathematics, and that dovetails perfectly with finances. Now, again, not every Aspie is the same, but we also have this penchant for loving spreadsheets and putting things down in order. So this is me. This is what I do, and I'm not sure if this is true of every Aspie, but I've got a spreadsheet, and every Sunday I go in to my spreadsheet and I pay off all my credit cards every single Sunday. At the end of the month, every expense, every source of income is on that spreadsheet, so I know where I'm at all the time. I spent many years in business. I built a fairly successful business. I didn't become extraordinarily wealthy, but I paid the bills, so I'll take that. And just seems like we have a knack for it. But the thing that bothers me about that is I'm trying to understand how other people don't get the basics. I mean, think about this. If you make, let's say you have a good income, you make $15, $25 an hour. Yeah, I'm old enough to remember when that was virtually impossible, but today's economy, what that means is you can't spend more than $15 or $25 an hour, whatever it is you make. If you take home $1,000 a week or $4,000 a month, maybe less, you just can't spend more than that. Okay, maybe not every Aspie is in the same boat with me on that, but I think typically you'll find that Aspies are more likely to be good with finances and keeping their ducks in a row and keeping their head above water and whatever other metaphor you can think of than neurotypical people. Number 6 is, remember I said we know what we want. Well, this is the flip side of that, and people with Asperger's syndrome seem to know what they do not want. The process of elimination. Maybe, just maybe, there's some Aspies out there who are hoarders. They keep stuff for no apparent reason. Maybe it's ODC or something. I don't know. But personally, if I don't need it, I usually don't keep it. There are some things that have intrinsic value to me and me alone. They are non-fungible. There's some things like something I bought when I was a kid or something I had when I was a teenager that, photographs, that's a good example. Things that, okay, what do you use those for? Well, they're personal. There's memories there. But if I'm not using it, why do I have it? I mean, if you can buy it at Walmart, let Walmart store it for me. Or if I can buy it on Amazon.com, let Amazon store it for me. That will be my warehouse. Yeah, but this thing is worth $5. You don't want to throw it away, because if you need it, you're going to have to spend $5. Well, for $5, I don't want to keep something for the rest of my life for $5. To me, that's a bad deal. That's a bad business transaction. Again, good with finances, so I don't want my house to be a warehouse. I don't want my garage to be a warehouse. My garage is for cars. Basically, I got some tools out there. During the summer months, once a week, I go out and kind of clean it up a little bit, to blow out the dust, whatever. But the point is, I know what I don't want, and if I'm not using it and it has no purpose in my life, why is it even here? And again, there are some exceptions. I got to admit, I'm going to admit this, big confession here. I've got one of those widescreen TVs in what we call our family room, and I never watch it. Never. It just kind of sits there. I don't even know why it's there. So, yeah, but that's worth more than $5. So, but it does have a purpose, I got to tell you. My grandson comes over, And he plays video games, so it serves a function. But by and large, yeah, I know what I don't want, and if I don't want it, out the door it goes. Number 7 is this. We tend to be survivors. So that is something that people with Asperger's syndrome really have learned to get right. Life has made us tough. Okay, sometimes life's difficulties has enhanced that thing with depression. It has caused us some serious problems. We a little bit confused about why people are what we are. But the point of the matter is, if you are an adult and you have Asperger's syndrome, that means you survived childhood. That means you survived those years in middle school, junior high school, when chances are you were bullied at the worst or just ignored at the best. And you went through high school when all that peer pressure was there and you kind of got shoved aside. You are a survivor. So you have been beaten down, and guess what? You got back up. You can't get up unless you've been beaten down. And so many people have no idea how difficult it is or how challenging it is, and so they don't have the calluses on their emotional hands, so to speak, because they've never had to do the work. So it's kind of like emotional weightlifting. Some people lift weights to build their bodies. We have lifted emotional weights to build our emotional integrity. Number 8 is we tend to be skeptics. By that I mean we just don't accept life at face value because, well, you've been there, done that, tried it again. A lot of this stems out of childhood. But when you're 5, 6 years old, send you off to kindergarten. I guess nowadays they send you off even earlier than that to preschool, pre-kindergarten. And they send you off and you have life's expectancies. And when you get there, you find out how disappointing life can really be. So you learn after a while not to accept things at face value. You turn on the news at night and watch the news. Chances are an Aspie is not somebody who's going to believe everything they hear just because they've heard it. Just because somebody looks official and makes a proclamation doesn't necessarily mean that it's true. Now the reverse side of that, or the inverse, however you want to say it, is that Aspie somehow at the same time tend to be gullible. That is because we also tend to be empaths. So we have this balancing act going on. On the one hand, yeah, we're kind of gullible, we're open, we want to be friendly, we welcome, we invite friendship because it is so rare, it is so valuable to us. But the flip side is we've been rejected and hurt so many times. We've been abused so many times, particularly in those sensitive years of childhood, that we have learned maybe I'm not going to buy that. Maybe I better hold out a little bit and see how this is going to work. This relationship is going to work before I buy it. I want to drive it around the road, around the block rather, a couple times. Number 9 is we pursue our passions. Now, some of these things are not universal with Aspies, but this one I think is near universal because virtually every Aspie I've ever encountered has a special interest. Are there exceptions? Well, yeah, I'm sure there are exceptions to everything, but nearly every Aspie has something that he's almost, or she is almost compulsive obsessive about, something that they are very, very focused on doing. And because of that, they pursue that thing. And that becomes a passion for them, and they go after it. And they see beyond what most people can see. So that is one of the things that Aspies are really strong at. Number 10 is this. They have what I call, I really didn't know what else to call this, so I just kind of invented the term a peephole personality. So you got a front door at your house and your apartment, at least I do. I assume everybody does, but as a little peephole in it, you know. Somebody knocks on the door, you look out the peephole. Now, in my house, we now have video set up all around our house. Come on our property, I can see on the monitor, on the computer monitor. But, before that, we had these little peepholes in the front door. Somebody knock on the door. Now, you know, who's there? Okay, now let's take that and apply it to our lives. We have a door to our lives. And on the door, we have a peephole. And so when somebody tries to get into our lives, we just don't open the door, let anybody in. We look in the peephole, figuratively speaking, using that as a metaphor. we want to check out this person. We want to find out something about them before we let them in our lives. Now, that is not true necessarily of younger Aspies because they are a little bit too vulnerable. You know, at least I was when I was a kid. I just let anybody in. I would get myself in trouble. But this is the process of learning because as Aspies, we tend to be taken advantage of and abused. So we learn. Sometimes it takes a while, it takes a few years, but we learn to, before you open the door, is look through the people. See who is out there. Make sure this is somebody I really want to come into my life. Again, I call that people personality. Now, if you can think of a better term for that, put it in the comments section. I'd be curious to know what you come up with. Number 11 is we tend to be appropriated. Now, we're not talking about social discourse here because the thing about Aspies is we're really not good at socializing. We tend to say things that don't fit, or we tend to engage in behavior that other people think is kind of weird, kind of strange. And to them, I guess it actually is kind of weird and kind of strange, but I'm talking about a different kind of appropriation here. I'm talking about organizational skills. So where we may fail in appropriate behavior, when it comes to appropriation, we're really pretty good at keeping things in order, things in line, putting things where they are supposed to be. That is because maybe a better way to say it is just that we're organized. And are we perfectly organized? Well, you can look in the background, see my office, and you can see, there's a couple things out of place there, but by and large, everything is where it's supposed to be. So, yeah, we are organized. The word I chose was appropriated. Okay, we got two more to go. Number 12 is we are, and I love this one, we are reliable and dependable. People with Asperger's syndrome tend to be extraordinarily faithful. Now, if you are married to an Aspie and you are a neurotypical, your patience may be strained, to the breaking point. And it depends on who you listen to. But there are some psychologists who tell me that people with Asperger's syndrome make good mates because they're reliable, they're dependable. They are faithful. When they make a commitment, they stick to it for life. One of the things that Aspies are notorious for is being bluntly honest. Sometimes they get themselves in trouble, but even studies with little children find that they are inherently honest. They just don't like to lie. You can rely on them, you can depend on them, but sometimes we are taken advantage of because of our blunt honesty. But nonetheless, I see that as a strength, something that we are really, really, really good at. The biggest problem is, talking about the flip side of these things, is people with Asperger's syndrome don't always know when to say no. We don't know when to, or maybe we know, but we just don't, we try to be so accommodating that even though we may know better, we don't turn people down for requests. They want us to help them do something or whatever. Number 13 is, and this is the last one, is we are self-driven. And this is kind of like number 12, but it takes it a little bit further. Number 12, we said that we are reliable, but number 13 explains why we are reliable, and that is because we tend to be self-driven. People who are neurotypicals, they are driven by the herd. Let's say that you have a buffalo, and the buffalo is out walking in the, where do buffaloes walk? Out in the field somewhere, out in the plains, and then you have a stampede. Well, what does the buffalo do? Well, it goes with the stampede. Wherever the herd goes, the buffalo goes with the herd. They're all together. They're all in this together. Well, that can cause problems if the herd stampedes over a cliff. I don't know if that's ever happened, but it could happen, I suppose. It happens with lemmings, I know that. But we're not part of the herd. So when the herd goes somewhere, we don't go with them. So how do we know where to do, or what to do rather, where to go? Well, we're self-driven. We're not followers in that sense. We don't go with the crowd. So if we're going to go anywhere, if we're going to accomplish anything in life, we have to find the motivation deep within us because there's no body ahead or behind moving us. Now, we could use a couple more analogies here. Think of a shepherd. He is leading his flock. Okay, so if you want to think of neurotypicals as sheep, then they're following the shepherd. But if you want to think of neurotypicals as cattle, what does a cowboy do? He doesn't lead the herd. He drives the herd from behind. So sheep, you got a leader in front. Cattle, you got a leader in the back, or what do they call them? Well, sheepdogs, but they can chase cattle too, I guess. So call them cow dogs. But we don't do that. We're not part of the herd. We're not part of the flock. We are individualist, and because of that, by necessity, it is very necessary for us to be self-driven. Now, what comes up next? Well, what we're going to talk about tomorrow, at least on the list, is how to read your personality. So you want to be a part of that. Take a look on your screen right now. You see those two rectangle boxes? If you click on one of those, this conversation keeps on going so we can keep on talking together. If not, thanks for stopping by, and see you guys next time.